Hey, shalom, everybody. Shalom. Welcome to the Way Remnant. I am Jeff Brandon.
And I'm Miranda Brandon.
Guys, we are live tonight on a Monday night, and boy, we are super excited. Back in the house all the way from Indiana, we have Mr. Fritz Zimmerman's coming in tonight, guys. I am so excited. We'll be talking about his new book, all kinds of things. It's going to be so fun. Guys, listen, make sure you go ahead and hit the share button. Send this out. Let people know that this is on live right now. You may have some questions. You may have some things that are going on in some areas that we're going to talk about tonight. I'm pretty excited. Let's first, Miranda, get some housekeeping out of the way. We've got Austin York. He was first in comments tonight. Shalom, brother. Good to see you. He said that he's looking forward to tonight. Amen. Got Diana Brunson's in the house. She's talking about anticipation. Lynn Hobbs, she's excited. I'm telling you what, we've got all kind of folks here tonight. We got a big woo-hoo, yahoo. There we go from Edna, that's AKA Al. Hallelujah. But yeah, so real fun stuff tonight. Sunflower's in the house. Victoria Sampson's here. Guys, listen, I don't want to wait any longer. I want to go ahead and have us go ahead and welcome Mr. Fritz Zimmerman live here, guys. Hello, Mr. Fritz. Good to see you, sir.
Good evening to you and to everyone out there. Hope everybody's having a good night.
Yeah, we are so excited to have you on tonight, guys. Listen, Fritz, thank you so much. This is your third time being with us, and we are so honored. I tip my hat to you, sir. We are so honored to have you on. We have just thoroughly enjoyed. I think we have 4 or 5, maybe 6 of your books now, and we just purchased this new book that we're going to be talking about tonight. We show it up here, Ancient America, The Dark Side. What a cover, brother. I'm telling you what, this is it is an amazing book. Man. A lot of neat stuff's inside of it.
From the area where we're at.
We live close to Moundsville, West Virginia, so that's kind of our stomping ground.
Yeah.
And so we have some. We want to talk about some things there. We just got, because of our last time of having you on, we did a trip to Newark, Ohio, and went and visited out there. And man, how cool was that? We had a good time out there. We've been by the Serpent Mounds. We went and toured the mounds down in Marietta, Ohio, all kinds of stuff. So some really neat stuff. And you talk about something that's near and dear to my wife's heart. What is it?
Close to where I used to live, Point Pleasant. And I was really intrigued about your stories of being in the Point Pleasant and Gallipolis area.
I was across the river in Gallipolis. I don't think they pronounce it that way, but I was across the river. But I could see Point Pleasant. I could see the mouth of the Kanawha. I could see the bridge. I was on a really high hill there on the Ohio River in a cemetery.
Wow. So, brother, what before we dig into some of the specifics, what kind of led you to write this new book? And guys, listen, you can get this on Amazon. I want to pop it up that way everybody can see it. But what kind of inspired you to write this new book?
Well, all the years that I've spent going to 700 burial mound and earthwork sites and 5 states, primarily though, Indiana, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, where the Adena are. It was my paranormal experiences. And then people were reaching out to me over the years of their paranormal experiences that they had at mound and earthwork sites. Some people just lived near mounds or earthworks and talking about their houses being haunted and UFOs and shadow people and disembodied voices, stuff flying around, cryptids, just the whole realm of everything that anyone could experience, including UFOs. And so it's my experiences and it's a lot of other people's experiences that they had. And so that was the book, which is really kind of an accumulative essay more than just something I thought I would sit down and write.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. And you, Fritz, you are the guy. I don't want to puff your head up too much, but man, thank you. You are the guy that has done the research. It's not that you've just got on the internet and looked up a couple things. You've been to these sites. You've been to sites that are not even public. You've been to sites that were on private land that people don't even have access to. Mm-hmm. I'm just amazed at how much effort you've put into this.
Yeah, I've been on a couple of private lands and had shotguns pointed at my face when I was coming out of the woods. I wouldn't recommend that. But I was younger back then, and in one case it was a burial mounds. There were 3 of them. It's 3 of them still existed, and that was the most common in the Ohio Valley. Was 3 burial mounds put together. None of the 3 survive, except it was on this guy's farm in northern Indiana. And I knocked on his door and asked permission. He told me, he said, "I will shoot you if you go on my property." I didn't think he was a man. I didn't think he would be out there with a shotgun, but there he was. Well, him and like 5 other, not only him, it was all the neighbors. It was like 5, 6 guys all standing out there with rifles and came popping out of the woods. And there they were.
My goodness.
Yikes.
My goodness. We just got back from going to Newark, Ohio, with the Newark earthworks. And Fritz, when we talked about it before, we pulled some things up on the internet and looked at some of the pictures. You sent us some pictures, we had for a slideshow, and we talked about it with the, in connection with the Amorites and all that. And I tell you, you just don't get a real handle on the scope of the size of these places until you actually visit there and walk them. We did a full day at the Newark earthworks, and of course we live close here to Moundsville, and walking up the one at Moundsville, it's super tall. It's a massive thing. When you're walking the one over at Marietta, Ohio, it's big. It has this massive moat thing dug around it. When you go over to the Serpent Mounds, people, you don't really realize the size and scope of these structures that were built. I would like you to talk a little bit, Fritz, just as we start tonight, and then I know Miranda's chomping at the bit to get down south, talk about Mothman, but just for some of our listeners, you have a very unique theory, one that I hold to. I'll tell you, you have really convinced me, but could you talk to the audience about your theory that maybe from the time of Joshua, when the Israelites went into the Levant and they began to fight these Rephaim giants, and you believe some of them fled over here, the Amorites, is that correct?
Yes, and the Amorites is one of the accounted tribes in the Bible. But they were a real people. They controlled Babylon from 2000 BC to 1600 BC. They were noted for advanced mathematics and surveying skills. They knew pi, square root. They knew advanced trigonometry. They had surveying skills. When we think of the Amorites, King Hammurabi, that had the first laws, the first law codex, he was an Amorite. They came up with our modern calendar of a 12-month year. That's from them. Astrology, the 12 houses of astrology, that came from them. The 60-minute hour and 60 seconds. I mean, all of that came from the Amorites. And I don't know that, why we say if they're a giant, they're a demon. I don't know that that's necessarily true. Of course, in the Bible, it says that they were, but consider that, I don't know if it's Chronicles, it's somewhere, but God tells the Israelites, he says, your father was an Amorite and your mother was a Hittite. So it's kind of hard to put a label of a demon on the Amorites if that was the father of the Jewish people. So I don't think all tribes were demons. Some might have been.
We were reading through that passage just the other day and dug a little into that. I think that when he's talking about that, he's talking about the actual city of where the Jebusites lived, that later that had the town of Salem, which later became Jerusalem after King David conquered it. So I think what he's talking about there is that the town of Jerusalem initially in the days of Canaan was a town of the Amorites. I think that's what he's talking about there. We actually dug into that one because that was a little odd. I agree with you, brother. Go ahead.
It was an Amorite city. You can tell by just the name of Jerusalem is U-R. There was the city of in Babylon, and means sun.
Yeah.
So actually, Jerusalem, the root word is sun. So it was a sun city, but it was occupied at one time by the Amorites.
I was really intrigued how you mentioned that you believe that the Amorites had a religion of math. And could you expound on that a little bit to some of our audience? Because I don't think they fully understand the scope, maybe tied in with Newark or some of the other places that you visited.
Well, they had something called gematria, and it was a numerical codex where 666 was symbolic of the sun, and 1080 was a lunar or earth mother number. Now, it's interesting that there was an MIT professor who believed that the mound builders in the Ohio Valley were using what we call today as the foot. They were using that. And again, we're looking at a base 12. But when you see 12, you're always thinking Amorite roots. And in West Virginia, down in Charleston, there is a mound. And then there were two hinges on each side of it. One gateway was aligned to the summer solstice sunrise and the other to the winter solstice sunrise. And of course, they would also line up on the opposite side. Each one of those was 666 feet in circumference.
Wow.
And that in itself, you might say, is coincidence, but down in Lexington, Kentucky is another hinge, and that is 555 feet in circumference.
Wow. Miranda has your book open right here to, what is it, page?
This is where he has talking about the Kanawha River and it being called the River of Evil Spirits, and that is the circumference with the 666 is right there.
Yeah. So you're seeing that number all over the place. That's very interesting, and I hadn't heard you say that before about them using the foot and being measured in that. We have a question from the audience, Fritz, if you're okay with that. Guthrie asked a question about what is your opinion on the dating of America's Stonehenge? Is it close to that of the other burial mounds?
No, I think that would be earlier. That would be more in the Megalithic era. So, that could date 2000 BC, maybe a little bit later than that. But I believe it's earlier. And what's interesting is that, not only does it have solar alignments, it also has a May 1st Beltane alignment. And May 1, Beltane was first practiced by the Amorites. And then that spread over in England, and they passed that on to the Celts. But it certainly had its origins with the Amorites.
So you're seeing kind of a slam dunk for this being the Amorites. Am I gathering that pretty good?
Yeah, the Newark earthworks, when you were there, the circle that is attached to the octagon, and to give people an idea of how big this is, there's a circle and then there's an octagon. The octagon is aligned to the 8 lunar standstills that happened over an 18.1 year period, 18.6 year period. So those are all aligned to lunar events. But it's so large that there is a regulation golf course inside of the octagon in the circle. So it's a massive earthwork that can only be seen really from the air. When you're there, you can see like some gateways, you know, in the octagon, but it's really hard to look across and see the other side. The only way it's really visible is from the air. So it was, you know, it had a functionality to it. But the circle that's attached to the octagon is the same area as the square earthwork that was adjacent to the large henge that is aligned to May 1st. And I'm the first one to expose that in the book, the May 1st solar alignment at the large henge in Newark.
I was able to
But the mathematics.
I was able to pull that up here, Fritz. I don't know if you can see our screen, but I'm showing.
Yeah.
I overlaid the city map on with kind of the map that's drawn, and this is that circle right here. And then this, like you say, it's built over an entire golf course. And
Right.
about
What you're looking at there is you're looking at the henge right there. The golf course is over on to the left, my left.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah, so fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. When we were there, we were just shocked that they had built a golf course over this place. We learned that they had destroyed another earthworks that was about 10 miles south of there, where they found the one of the Newark holy stones. There used to be a stone pyramid, and they had destroyed that to help build a levee and farmland and stuff. And I'm just, how much of this stuff, Fritz, do you think that we've destroyed versus how much is actually left? Do you think we've destroyed most of it?
Well, I mean, there's some left. I was at the stone mound. There are some remnants.
Okay.
It was 60 foot high, built of stone. They removed the stones for the reservoir for Columbus, Ohio.
Right.
They took 5,000 wagon loads of stone from that mound.
That's incredible.
1,000. And that was still there. And the Newark earthworks, the golf course has been great. They keep it mowed. They haven't destroyed anything. But now it's been handed over to UNESCO. And I don't think, I would say go now while the golf course has it, because I don't think UNESCO is going to even mow it. I don't think it's even. I don't think you're going to even be able to see it.
I know we've
once they over, and the Ohio History Connection is moving to have everything taken over by UNESCO, so it's no longer going to be our history; it's going to be world history, and it's being handed over to a board of foreigners in other countries. So,
wow! I did not realize that.
Yeah, it's really sad.
Yeah, we can go to some of the mounds that we visited. They're not even, like you say, they're not mowing them, and they're starting to have little trees come up on them again. I know some of these trees had been removed in the past, but now they're starting to grow back up with this, and it's a very sad thing to see indeed. I know. I would like to shift gears a little bit, and let's get into some of your book with the supernatural side, because that's the primary focus of your new book, Ancient America: The Dark Side. And my wife Miranda grew up close to Parkersburg, and so she grew up hearing and Mothman was kind of a big deal for that area, especially for a cryptid. I mean, I would venture to guess you heard about Mothman before you heard about Bigfoot, right? Type of thing. So, Fritz, what got you attracted down to Point Pleasant?
Well, there was a burial mound across the river at a Gallipolis cemetery. I was going there to photograph I knew the mound wasn't there. There was a gazebo on the base of it, but it was probably a good 100 foot in diameter. It was a good sized mound before it was leveled, and then they put the gazebo on it. I was up there doing that. I didn't even know about the Mothman when I went down there. It wasn't until I had my experience up there and I got home, I was telling a friend of mine where I was, and he said, well, have you ever heard of the Mothman? I said, no. And that night I watched the Mothman prophecies. So that was enlightening.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you mind sharing a little bit about your experience there that you had?
Well, I was up in the cemetery. Like I said, it's on a high bluff. And I took a photograph at the mouth of the Kanawha because I just wanted to get a shot of that. And I did that. And as soon as I did, there was this creepy kind of high-pitched voice that said, "Nice evening, isn't it?" And it was right in front of me. And like I said, I'm on this bluff. There's nothing up there, nothing around me.
Yeah.
And you try to rationalize stuff like that. I mean, your first thing isn't really to go ghost. So I thought maybe a voice maybe traveled up the hill, that maybe there was a business at the bottom of the bluff. Yeah. And that had come up. So I got in the car and I went to leave, and, there's a drive going down this steep hill. And it got to that drive and my car lurched to the left. And I had to go back around the cemetery, and I got up to where that drive is, and I had my hand on the wheel, and the wheel just turned in my hand. Just turned back around. I went, and I went up to that, and I thought, maybe the car had hit a hole or something, and it just, popped the tire left. But I'm pulling up there. It's like, wow, this is flat. I don't know why that my wheel would turn like that. And I stopped the car. I opened my front door. I stuck my left leg out, and I basically walked the car until I got it pointing down the hill. And then I took off, and then something was with me for a day. My next stop was Charleston, West Virginia. And I must have looked in my rearview mirror 100 times. I thought something was in my back seat.
Wow.
Then got to Charleston, got in a hotel. My room was like 50 degrees. Maintenance people didn't know why. It was freezing cold in there. Wasn't that cold outside. I was actually opening up my door to let warm air in. I don't know, my room was cold. Wow. Got through that. Next day, went out to the car. I had no oil in my car. I was, traveling. I'd, check the oil in the morning. I didn't have any oil, none. And I couldn't explain that. Put oil in it. Had problems with the car all day. And actually left Charleston where there was a 666. My next stop was Richmond, Kentucky. And there was another hinge there. And that one measured 666 feet in circumference. So I had a lot of. And it was like 24 hours exactly. And the car started to work. And I made it home. I didn't know if I was going to make it home with this car. But that all changed. So whatever it was 24 hours and it went away.
Fritz, I know that some people in the modern church would scoff at some of these things, but I think it is very important for us to bring these things out and talk about them, especially from a biblical worldview. Because what happens, Fritz, is people do experience these things. These things actually happen. People have these experiences, and they go to their pastors, they go to their elders of their church, and they say, "Hey, I had this happen," and they just look at them like they've got a foot grown out of their forehead. They look at them like they're just crazy. And listen, these things are legitimate. We see whether or not the witch of Endor, when King Saul came to her, and either raised up Samuel or raised up a demon that was representing Samuel or something like that. I think she raised up Samuel. There's all kinds of stuff. There's a lot of supernatural things that we see in the scripture, and the modern church today just thumbs their nose at it and says, "Oh, we've become too educated, too civilized to believe in such things." But they're out there, and thank you for taking the time to write these things down and write these as a reference for some people to look at.
I love how he gave a biblical answer for the Mothman, because I had been to a school trip in the area and they had talked about some of the history. There were some wars that had taken place there, and there was mentioned that there was a lot of supernatural in the area. And then my family, they drag race, and there is a drag strip that you've got to go. For us to get there, we had to go through Point Pleasant. And we were coming home one evening, and I was with my brother and a friend, and our friend that was driving the car saw a blue orb of light in the middle of the road when we were coming through Point Pleasant. And obviously, you know, my grandfather went right after the bridge fell, the Silverton Bridge. And so we always heard stories about these things. There's a lot of documentaries, and they always point towards aliens. But Fritz, you brought up in your book, and I thought it was genius, that the Mothman fits with the demon of Pazuzu. And Jeff has a picture here so people can see what that looks like. You can see where people would Mothman out of this.
Yeah.
And when I looked up, go ahead.
The Native Americans called a bird that's on a rock face in Alton, Illinois. They called it. It was winged, red eyes, claws. Very much, it was identical, basically, to Mothman, but they called it Piasu.
Wow.
And that is so close to Pazuzu.
Yeah.
And that's where the connection. Then it's not only, but Pazuzu had the same physical traits as the Mothman, and the Native Americans were calling a similar creature Piasu. So it very well could be, and that is a Babylonian god. So again, that's something that it's probably brought here with them.
Yeah, I was looking him up, and I noticed that one of the things that they said about him was he was a deceiver whose actions could result in human catastrophes. And that would tie right in with when the Silverton Bridge fell and everybody was seeing the Mothman at that same time. And so it all just kind of came together and made sense.
Yeah, Miranda's dad, we were at Thanksgiving, and he was actually telling us a story. One of his friends, was it one of his friends, or was it?
Yeah, one of his friends was on the bridge when it fell.
One of his friends was on the bridge when it fell. Him, his wife, and I think
their 4-year-old.
Their 4-year-old, and the car went down. He was the only one that survived out of that car, and he just dealt with it his whole life. A horrible thing went on. These you also tied in this. Help me say that word again. Pazuzu. How am I saying that right, Fritz? Pazuzu. You're making a tie-in with the Piasu with the demon that was portrayed in the movie Exorcist. Is that correct?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah. So very fascinating. So
and I couldn't help you talked about the Kanawha River and how it was known as the River of Evil Spirits. And it's interesting because my family, they own property, that riverfront property for the Little Kanawha River. And we had so many cryptid experiences on their land and land just down the road from that, still along the same river.
Right.
And I was like, man, everything's like tying together with what Fritz says.
Yeah. Miranda had actually witnessed, how old were you when you witnessed that?
I was around age 9.
Miranda was about 9 years old, and she witnessed a Bigfoot out from her house across a ravine, just for, I don't know, just a little bit. It wasn't long that you saw it.
Yeah, he was running up the hill towards the Little Kanawha River.
And you had already seen Harry and the Hendersons, and you wanted a Bigfoot because you thought that'd be so cool.
Yeah, to have one as a friend. But then when I actually got to see one, I started having awful nightmares.
Yeah.
And I will still to this day have nightmares about them. So it brought a lot of fear.
Yeah. So what definitely wasn't like
like the movies, let me tell you.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So Fritz, that's very interesting. So what? Well, a lot of your research comes from the American Indians. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, Native Americans had, they all agreed that there was a giant race
Right.
that came from another land, and they were the builders of the burial mounds.
Yeah. Yeah. And we see them as definitely a mixed race because I don't think they were all giants. Kind of like what you were talking about earlier. Um, some I think there were some giants that were mixed in and some regular sized Assyrians. I know the land of Canaan was supposed to be filled with giants, but when Joshua the tribe from Gibeon came up to them, well, at least the entourage that was presented to Joshua, they weren't giants because they were able to get them fooled into a covenant with them. So I definitely think you could have an Amorite tribe with both giants and without giants. I know we have stories down from around the Alabama area, around the Mississippi area, where there would be one or two or three giants that would be living among the Indians, and they would be worshipped by them and feared. Then we have other actual tribes of giants that lived that we had maybe out at Lovelock Cave and things like that over in with the Hopi Indians. How big, Fritz, would you think if you had to put a guesstimation? How big of an area? I mean, do you think that they took over most of the what we call the continental United States at one time, or do you believe they were just primarily focused in the Mid Ohio Valley?
No, I mean they were trading all over the country. They were going out to out west to get obsidian. They were in the Carolinas getting mica. They were in the Gulf around Florida. They were getting conch shells. They were in Minnesota getting pipestone. And all these things you can find in Ohio. So no, they were spread out and they were trading. So they did have interaction with different tribes. To how much they intermingled or interbred with them is a question. But I mean, it certainly were all over the country.
Wow. I have another question from an audience member, Fritz. Are you familiar with satyrs in the book of Isaiah, chapter 34? And if you are, would that be something like the horned giants that were found?
Possibly. I believe a satyr is a Greek.
Yeah, my understanding of a satyr, it's like a half goat, half person. I do remember a video that surfaced probably back in the mid 80s, early 90s from the Soviet Union, from Russia, where it was a newscast all in Russian where they had dug up the bones of a satyr. But Doug, I'm not sure if you're familiar with that, but interesting question. Thank you for the question, Gunther. All right. Goat man. There we go. Somebody said goat man. There we go. Very interesting. So like I said, I'd like to get back to these portals, the supernatural side. I know you visited the Grave Creek Mound site. That's here in Moundsville. You drive across the big bridge coming into Moundsville. You can't miss it. It's so tall, and most everybody wants to go visit the prison, the old West Virginia State Penitentiary that's here in Moundsville. It's closed now, just open for tours. I know, Fritz, that when we've done tours, I was on a board with the gentleman that runs the place, and he was telling us that prison was more bloody, more violent than even Alcatraz. What connection would you say that had to the mound, the 90-foot mound that's right across the street from it? Literally, right. People don't understand. You can throw a rock and hit the mound. It's that close. What are your thoughts there on that? Do you think that plays something into that?
Well, it could be haunted by prisons, but you have to understand that a burial mound was a portal for the dead. And in the Book of Enoch, it says of the giants, it says that your spirits shall be earthbound. Right. They are there. And I think a lot of the haunting is probably ancient and not modern.
Yeah.
And
I agree with that.
most television shows, they don't show the burial mound in front of the prison, because of woke sensitivities these days. But I've always thought if there's a reason that place is haunted, that would the burial mound would have a lot to do with it. And in the bottom of that burial mound was a man that was 8.5 foot in length, and his wife was in an upper chamber at the top of that mound.
Yeah.
Where it's cut off right now. That's basically where her grave sat, because the mountain extended further up than what it is now. And that skeleton that they found in the bottom, I don't know if I put that in this book or not, but
did.
that skeleton was in a museum. That was in a museum that was actually in the mound itself in the 1830s.
Would we have permission from you to just hold the book up and show that? Would that be okay?
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
So I want to tell this little bit of a story here. This Fritz, when we got done with your show, I think it was your first show that we did with you.
Go to the top of the page, the one that's in black and white. Looks like a lithograph. That's a skeleton.
Yeah.
So there's the long one.
Yeah. This is a long picture of the skeleton. Let me see if I can pull it up. That's that skeleton.
So there,
and his head.
The head's on that side.
His head right here.
Is there a black and white of a skeleton? I thought I saw it. It's on the other page.
Okay.
Both of these. Both of
Okay, both of these pages. Yeah, both of these. Yeah.
That's a close up of the
That
skull.
one that was in the museum. That's in a newer museum. That skeleton there was 7'6". And then there was a lithograph from the 1830s of the giant skeleton that was put on a wall.
Right.
And inside
Right here.
where the museum.
Yep, that's this one right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't see that. Oh, I'm seeing words.
Yeah, that's
No
okay.
pictures.
Yep. So so interesting. I'm really glad you put that in this book. We got done with your interview. I went down to the mound probably 2 days afterwards, and I was hitting up some people that worked there, and they're like, "No, that didn't happen. That's not true." Blah blah blah. And I'm like, "Yeah, but I know a guy. I got a guy that's got a picture. You're my guy, Fritz. You're my guy." And I am so glad that you put that in this book because
The
listen.
museum, that picture in the that lithograph, which we're not going to see, I guess. They took it and they changed it. They removed the large skeleton and they put a normal sized skeleton in its place.
Yeah.
They changed it.
Yeah.
And when you go to the museum now, there is a sign about that there's no such thing as giants, pseudo-archaeology.
So this is
all of
the,
that. Can you move over just a little bit? I don't see it.
okay.
Oh,
This is
God, you're so,
okay.
you're so
this is
close.
okay.
It looks like it's showing on our end.
It's showing on our end, Fritz, but this is the original one. And I'm gonna flip over. I want to flip
That's
over
the
and
original.
show them.
That's the original lithograph there.
And then,
That
yeah, and
that
I wanna-
lithograph was changed by the museum, and now that same lithograph is now shown in the museum. Only it's a regular
that's-
sized skeleton.
that's the new one that they show. And when they show it, it's just like you have in the book. It's kind of blurred. I guess so you don't have, so you can't see. And it is. I have a color picture of it somewhere
Well,
here at the house. We're
It's
going to do
not
another
blurred.
show.
It's a clear picture. They changed the skeleton. They took the large skeleton from the original and they put a small skeleton in there.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely been doctored.
Oh, good. They said they can see it.
Okay, so everybody, listen, Fritz. I know you're having some trouble seeing it. Everybody else could see it on the program, so thank you guys. But yeah,
Okay, good.
So now you
All right. Well,
mentioned you mentioned their portals. So you're tying this in with the Book of First Enoch. That when the giants God was going to make the giants kill off each other, and he said that when they died, he was going to curse them, and they wouldn't go to any other place, but they would stay earthbound, and there's actually some places where it says that they'll be there to torment man. And so these are, I believe this is where we get demonic spirits from. And you're saying that these demonic spirits from the dead Nephilim are here roaming the earth, and they use these mounds. Either the mounds were built on top of known portals, or these became portals. Is that kind of what you're saying?
No, the mound itself is a portal. They're not built on portals. The mound is the portal.
Okay, it's kind of like over in Israel, where they have the Valley of the Shadow of Death, and they have all the dolmens everywhere, something like that, correct?
Oh yeah, there's megaliths all over. Well, Jacob worshipped a pillar and poured oil on it, and the Bible does give some insight really into the megalithic era of these stones. God says, "Build me an altar of stone. Let no hammer touch it, lest you ruin it, to be whole stones." And
Right.
so kind of what you're seeing with, stone circles, which they have in the Bible. So really the Old Testament is more of a megalithic era. And so that is what they're describing is dolmens and pillars and stone circles. And so really the roots of the Bible is in the megalithic era.
I know, like Gilead actually means like a heap. So, and they had a big mound there as well. So I'm wondering if these things are all kind of tied together. Very, very interesting. And we've seen and heard of accounts here in town locally, Fritz, of people seeing shadow people, having a lot of supernatural events go on close to the mounds. We've heard of, I know some people don't like to mention the name of skinwalkers, or they've seen Bigfoot. They've seen all kinds of stuff.
We actually, there was a young boy here.
At that burial mound at Grave Creek, they've seen. Now I've read that they've seen shadow people there at Grave Creek. I didn't know about cryptids. I didn't know about skinwalkers. But you're saying people are seeing skinwalkers at the burial mound?
Not specifically at the mound, but close to it, like within a mile or two of the mound.
Yeah, we actually had a young boy that was killed here, and his family actually saw him get ripped apart, and they said it looked like a werewolf.
Really?
Yeah.
That, and a local sheriff here recently told his story on Jeffrey's channel, where he talks about Dogman, and he talks about how
there's a guy named Jeffrey Nardine that has a channel that talks about cryptids. It's primarily focused on dogmen and stuff, but he does other things as well. He talked to this gentleman, interviewed him, and even talked to the retired sheriff that was over the case back in the day, and they confirmed all these things. And poor little kid was ripped apart. Of course, the government comes in and says, "Oh, it was a bear," or something like that.
And you better say it was a bear.
And you better say it was a bear. Yeah, that type of thing. So, crazy stuff. Again, Fritz, one reason we do these shows like this is because these things do happen. We have massive stories everywhere. And if you go to most of the churches and talk to them about, "Oh, you're crazy." And so what happens? These people turn to the occult because they're like, "Well, the church doesn't have the answer." But Fritz, we do. We do have the answer. Right? I think we have the better answer to all this. So interesting stuff. So you mentioned some paranormal stories. What would you say one story, maybe as a teaser for folks to try to get the book? What would be one story out of the book that really stands out that you may want to share with the audience?
Well, personally, the most horrific thing is I was in Wisconsin, and I was at a burial mound site there. It was at night, and with a group of people, and a ball of light, a large ball of light, came across the sky coming from the east over Lake Michigan, and it stopped right above us. It was high. It was probably 15,000 feet. and it slowly like dissolved. And about 10 seconds later, another one came across, stopped above us. It dissolved. The next day I left, I was with another author. I was speaking at a conference. Stan Friedman was there, and I think Steve Schmidt, who was writing about Area 51, he was there. And they had not gone with us, which was too bad since that was their whole shtick. But the next night we were on our way home, wrapped around Chicago, and we were going to head south to pick up Highway 30. And it was only like 7 miles away. I don't think we got more than a couple miles down this road. And next thing we knew, we were driving. It was just dark, blackness, black sky. We were driving. And I told Rick, I said, it's 1 a.m. What? And I said, it's 1 a.m. I said, it was just 11 o'clock. I said, we looked at our phones. I said, well, it's like, it is 1. Well, we were only a few miles from 30. Now we'd find out we went a few miles past that. We ran into 114. Now I know what that road is. It's like we're too far south. We turned around. We went back and we hit 30. At 30, about 15, 16 miles. So somehow we had gone from about 4 miles north of Highway 30 to about 10 miles south of Highway 30, and 2 hours had gone by that we cannot account for.
Oh, wow.
So I don't know. So that was really, really, really strange. And there's just no explanation for it. Flat land, the only way to get where to go was to go over the overpass over 30, but if we'd have fallen asleep or something like that, that wouldn't have happened. Yeah. And the guy that I was with, he was shook up. He was really shook up. And I was shook up, and we couldn't explain it. And the only thing I can think of is right after, we had the UFO experience that, I don't know what happened. So I did a podcast the other night, and she was telling me, she's like, well, have you ever thought about doing regressive hypnotism or something like that? And I said, I just do not know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, you may not want to, right?
Go there.
Wow. I tell you, we see a lot of stories about people disappearing, abductions, and this stuff is real. This stuff is absolutely real. There's been a lot of people with big massive initials behind their names, PhDs and stuff, study this, and it's more than some kind of mass psychosis or mass hypnotism type thing. These things are actually happening, and they're not able to explain them. We've got a guy, Al, in our comments right now is talking about a werewolf incident that he experienced, where they had about it looks like
this one's down, the werewolf's down here.
Yeah,
that one
right here. So saw a huge black werewolf. My ex-wife was with me and 2 kids in the back seat, walked right out in front of the car at 3:30 in the morning when they were going home. He said the eyes were pure black, and just very interesting stuff. So that you begin to talk about these things, Fritz.
Scroll down.
And
this one had red eyes.
This one had red eyes. I'm sorry. You begin talking about these things, and you start hearing from people all around, like, "Oh yeah, I've got a story," or "Oh yeah, I've got a story." How? I mean, am I saying that correctly? Would you say that as you talk to people about this, that it seems like either something has happened to someone when they're talking to you, or they know of someone that's had something happen? Would you say it's that common?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that have experienced strange things. I tried to concentrate just on people that saw things around burial mounds or earthworks.
Right.
And that was a lot because I think those are portals were possibly where these things are coming out. And another thing to remember is that these are demons.
Yeah.
Bigfoot's a demon. Werewolf is a demon. A cryptid is a demon. And they're going to manifest as something scary. Mothman is a demon.
Right.
And they're going to manifest in different ways and different things. Mothman, I mean, how many people do we have in Elmer Fudd hats with shotguns out there trying to shoot a Bigfoot? And it would seem to me with thousands of people looking for one of these, somebody would either get a photo or shoot one. But the thing is they're dealing with a ghost, and you're not going to shoot a ghost.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen we've heard from stories where they could kind of cloak themselves almost to full invisibility. We've seen, kind of like what the Predator did in some of his in the movies with the Predator. We've seen where they just they're there 1 minute and they're just gone the next.
Or turn into an orb of light. We've heard stories about that.
Turning into orbs of light and just disappearing. And these things need to be talked about.
And people have talked about taking photos of the mounds and orbs of light showing up in the photos with mounds.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, Fritz, now we've definitely heard the stories around the mounds here about these shadow people, shadow creatures. We've heard stories about these skinwalkers in the area. We've heard stories of Bigfoot, and we went and spent Sukkot up in Pennsylvania, and Miranda knew of a website where you could go and look and see where different dogmen sightings had happened. And gosh, we were right in central location for dogmen. Yay! But you know what? We're going there celebrating the Lord, and we've got the name of Jesus, the name of Yeshua on our side. So
yeah, we were all good.
Not living in fear over those things.
No.
Got a question here from another listener, DJ Sampson. Wants to know, have you ever looked into Waverly Hills? Says it's the most haunted location I've ever been to, on top of the highest point in southern Louisville, Kentucky. Have you ever been there?
No. I mean, I deal with paranormal. I deal with ancient paranormal and burial mound and earthwork sites. So if it's not one of those, I am not a ghost hunter.
Gotcha.
Right. I've seen ghosts. I wasn't looking for ghosts.
Right.
I've come across shadow people. I've come across things like that, but I was at a burial mound or earthwork site when I witnessed that. But I'm not. Well, I am going out on the 21st. We just did kind of a bird dog, working with Jennifer Lee. She's a medium, and she's a Reiki master. And we are going to go out and see if we can photograph, film with paranormal equipment of, I got an SLS coming, I've got video recorder, voice recorder. I've got another thing to translate languages, because when we were at a mound site 2 weeks ago, and she was just using her phone, and we were at a stone burial mound, and there was a voice that came out, 5 syllables, but I couldn't make it out what it was saying. And so I bought a voice translator. So I would think that it's Hebrew. If it's an Amorite, the Amorites were a Semitic people. They spoke Semitic language. So they spoke the same language as the Hebrews. But if they were there, they're not going to be speaking English. There's no reason to go there and ask questions really in English. They're not going to understand you. You're going to understand them. But they may say something, and hopefully this voice translator, we can communicate, after the fact, or, we'll have that with us so we can know what they're saying. But I was on YouTube and I saw some people and they were mounds and asking questions like they don't understand you. They don't know English. It's silly. Or they would have an ovulus. These are things that spit out words, and it would spit out English words. Like, well, you're just showing that, your evidence is a hoax. So why would they be communicating with you in English? They don't know that language.
Very interesting. Wow. Do you think that these spirits that coming out of these portal areas influence unsuspecting people around the areas? Do you think that some of these people that live near to these things have things that go on that they just maybe don't realize they're being influenced?
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. And when it comes to that, you were saying you've got to prayer up before you go to these sites.
Yeah.
Now I should have that with me here, but I carry a Solomon badge, and Solomon was the demon slayer.
Okay.
And Jennifer researched that, and he actually had a symbol to carry with you if you were at a site that would protect you. It's a sign. It's a certain emblem. So I have one of those in a metal badge. I carry that, but you have to invoke either Saint Michael. You can invoke Solomon and use that as protection, but you can't just put it in your pocket. You actually have to invoke either Saint Michael, Solomon, something like that. To have a cross around your neck, that ain't going to do you any good unless you invoke that power. So just a heads up to somebody out there that, you got to prayer up before you go to these sites. And you've got to be strong. If you're weak, if you're into drugs, if you have addictions, then, you're a target. You're an absolute target. So you've got to be strong mentally, and you've got to go strong when you're in those, and you have to be prayered up either to God or, to one of the archangels. I like Solomon. And
I would definitely recommend praying in the name of Yeshua, praying in the name of Jesus. We have scripture that backs us up, Fritz, that says there's not a name higher than that. And I would definitely encourage you to be able to pray and ask the Holy Spirit in and allow God to move. Because listen, I agree.
And be led where you go.
And be led where you're going, because
maybe Yah tells you not to go.
Yeah, God may tell you not to go to this place. And I'm grateful for you going out and venturing and being able to report back, because listen, we need some of these things to be able to talk to people about, because these things are real. I like how LA says they're real, they're burgeoning, they're not going away. These things happen, and we need to know how to deal with them. I personally deal with them in the name of Yeshua. I've cast out devils in Yeshua's name. I've cast out demons in Jesus' name. I'm okay with using either one of those. And I've never had any issue dealing with those types of things. And but yeah, if you go in, we have a story in the Bible, Fritz. I know you're familiar with it. There was a priest named Sceva. He had 7 sons. He saw these new disciples of Jesus, of Yeshua, going and casting out demons in the Book of Acts. And so they went up to this demon-possessed guy, and they said, I command you to come out in the name of Jesus, whom Paul preaches. And the demon says, Paul I know and Jesus I know, but who are you? And he beat the snot out of him. So yeah, we have to definitely we have to definitely make sure we're doing things in the correct order. But yeah, praise God, amen. Wow.
Well, I will know in the upcoming weeks. Like I said, it's December 21st going out. Definitely going to the Giant Slayer. I'm going to Newcastle. I'm going then back to Ohio, Mountain State Park. I'm going to hit all the sites, and we're just going to see. We'll see what we can capture there. I'll tell you, I'm a lot more scared of UFOs than I am of demons.
Wow, very interesting. Yeah. Well, Fritz, if you happen to come by the Moundsville area, give us a holler. We'd like to meet up with you. I'll buy you lunch, and maybe we can go up on top of the mound and pray out some spirits and just rebuke some things in the name of Jesus. Yeah, but we go ahead.
Let me see. Let me see if I can get them on camera before you rebuke them. But then we'll rebuke. Yeah. And we'll rebuke on our way down.
Yeah. No, I'm all in favor of trying to get them on film and trying to get them captured because we do have some people that don't believe, they don't understand some of these things, and then we've got people that are just straight up on the spiritism side, witchcraft side, and they're trying to communicate to these things and worship these things and be friends and get guidance. Guys, these are demons. Don't have anything to do with them. They're not your friends. They may try to tell you that they're your friends. And listen, they do have knowledge. Fritz, I believe that Nikola Tesla was visited by some of these fallen spirits and was given tremendous insight with knowledge that's still kind of further along than what we have today. Yeah, they do have some knowledge, but listen, it's not godly stuff. We need to make sure we're listening to God.
Well, I mean, how many people out there both lived it and maybe are still doing it who invoke a fairy, and a fairy is a demon. Yep. Invoke a fairy to come and drop off money for their child when it loses its teeth.
Come on now. There you go. Preach it, brother. Yeah. Listen, I'm telling you, Fritz, what you're saying is 100% true. We have Christian parents telling their children, hey, pray to the tooth fairy, invoke the tooth fairy, and they grow up doing it. They are opening the door to witchcraft for their kids. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. I wrote the Encyclopedia of Ancient of Fairies, and I don't know, I must have 1,500 accounts of people ran into fairies. Some stories are long, some are short, but you have a 99% chance it's going to end up bad, meeting up with a fairy. So if you know that, why would you invoke one to visit your child to bring it money? Just the act of telling them that a fairy is going to come into their room is somewhat frightening. I did when I was a kid. I didn't know any better. And the fairy that visited me was cheap. I think I only got a quarter. Yeah.
Hey, listen, Al, and I'm not mad at our parents for doing those things. I think they did them out of ignorance. But when you do find out, you need to stop. I think that's the message we're saying here. When you do find out that you're maybe doing things in the wrong area, you need to stop, repent, because we don't want these things running around us. And that fairies, little people, and all that kind of stuff. We need to be careful with that. Wow.
Well, they're also mentioned in the Book of Enoch.
Okay.
And according to that story, the fairies or the fae had allied themselves with Satan, fallen angels, and God had sentenced them to hell. And story goes they were about halfway down. They were descending into hell, and God changed his mind, and he said, "You too, like the giants, you will inhabit the earth, and you will take on whatever environment kind of you live in." So it would be woods fairy, water fairy, or water spirit. So wherever they ended is what kind of fairy they would be. Now, we also have sightings at Mountain State Park. Stories that's in Anderson, Indiana. It's a hinge site. The park ranger, DNR, went on record to say that he saw a fairy there at the park. And there's been numerous sightings of fairies there and a couple other earthworks. So there we have giants, which are found in the parks, and fairies, both being inhabiting Mounds State Park. So they are real. They are real as well. And they are entities. I will be looking for them in 2 weeks.
I know, brother, when we, the first, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, in 2 weeks, there's going to be an alignment, one in Newcastle I'm going to go to, and at Mountain State Park for the summer solstice sunrise. So I'm going to go there for that and to see if that's a charged site and see what we see.
We made the mistake. So I want to tell this story, brother, to let people know. Look up in advance when you're going. Miranda and I and my daughter Jessica one day said, "Hey, let's go to the Serpent Mounds," because we've been doing some research on the mounds. So we just loaded up and went, brother. And it was in the summer. We get there the day after the summer solstice. And listen, there were still so many pagans and witches there. We were trying to film and get some B-roll to have for some footage. And oh my gosh, there was witches. There was so much sage being burnt there. You couldn't hardly breathe. There was crystals. There was literally these women hugging the trees and listen, making out with the trees. I'm just trying to be nice how I say that, brother, because you may have kids watching, but wow. I'm telling you what, it was, my daughter was like, "Daddy, look at this," you know? So make sure you know when you're going and definitely be prayed up. But yeah, that's something. Yeah. So we've got a lady named, maybe a lady named Jamie. I live right by that park. Let's rebuke some fairies. There we go. So I'm not sure which part she was talking about, but maybe she can put that in.
Thank you, Patricia.
So you're going to be trying
the last I was there with Marzulli, and there were witches doing chants. We weren't there for a solstice. We were there in the winter.
Where about?
The Serpent Mound.
Serpent Mound.
Serpent Mound. About 10 witches doing chants.
Wow.
When we were there.
Wow.
So I imagine that's when it was cold outside. I can imagine what it's like in the summer.
Yeah. Oh, they were laid out everywhere. You couldn't. If you've been to the Serpent Mound, you know where you park, and then you have to kind of walk up through a couple of the mounds. There's a little gift shop before you get, and then the little tower thing. That whole area was just almost solid blankets with people laid out.
I'm sure it was even more
the day before. Yeah, these are just the guys there in the afterglow. I mean, So Chad Schaefer put sage. Yeah, so they burned sage to cleanse the area of evil spirits. Chad, just to let you know. Yeah, it's called smudging, if I remember right.
Yes.
But
there are some witches that are more to like earth spirits. They're harmless. And there's other witches that are demonic. I think a lot of them are earth spirits, and not on the demonic side. There's actually somebody told me of some these people seeing fairies in southern Indiana, and she said it was a group of witches that were seeing them, and she's going to introduce me to them. I'm going to go out with them and just see what they're seeing. It's kind of a scary proposition, but it's what I do now. So we'll check it out.
We'll be praying for you, brother, and lifting you up, and pleading the blood of Yeshua over your life. How about that? Yeah, maybe they'll get saved. Hallelujah. That'll be good. Yeah. That's good. Do you get a lot? And I appreciate the fact that you and I know LA does this as well, because you guys go to all kinds of conferences. And I appreciate the fact that you don't shy away from people because they, most of the time when they hear someone's a Christian or something like this or a believer, they don't have anything to do with them. But when you begin to get in and you're able to talk to them and gosh, you're always planting seeds and able to minister some things to them. And so praise God for that. That's good stuff.
Yeah. We've been to a few of those with LA, and you're just gonna do a lot of talking. You can just guarantee that. So it's part of your day, talking to people.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Wow. How many times have you been up to this one here in Moundsville? Is it just once or twice, or have you visited more than that? And I was just curious if you'd had any happenings while you were here at this particular mound.
Not really. There in the day, and when you're shooting, I mean, I did a shoot with LA. We were there a little bit. We were in the museum. That's where that lithograph came from.
Right.
But when I'm doing the mound guide, I'm in and out. I'm going to get a photograph and I'm leaving. So I'm not really hanging out long enough to see anything. But I've been to Moundsville, Grave Creek, probably 4 times. I was at Fort Hill, which is just up the road from the Serpent Mound. And up there, I was up taking some photographs. Again, I wasn't planning on spending very much time there. And I was up by the gate where the 2 serpent heads come together.
Okay.
It's a stone work that goes around. Oh my gosh, I don't know how big. It's big. But it's an undulating stone wall that goes all the way around, and it comes together with are 2 serpents, and there's a gateway. I was there and I saw a shadow person, very tall. It moved towards the serpentine stone wall. It went behind a tree that was much smaller than it, but when it went behind the tree, it just disappeared. So I was just staring over there at that tree, and like, did I just see that? And it moved out of the tree and it moved back away from the serpentine wall, and then it disappeared behind another tree that it was much bigger than. But once it hit the tree, it just dissolved. And at that point, I went down the hill.
Wow.
And then I interviewed a guy in the book, and he saw the exact same thing, and he was standing exactly where I was. He was with a friend of his who was pretty shook up about it. And they waited till they got down to the hill, and his friend, this guy, asked him, like, what did you see? I want to ask you before, I tell you what I saw. Well, that's what they saw. They saw a shadow person. It was very tall. So it sounds like they saw the exact same thing that I saw at the exact same place. So, that was I don't know, I don't want to say scary. You don't get scared until afterwards, when you go through everything you had to say, like, well, it could have been this, could have been that. Now a shadow person, it's like, well, I don't know what it could have been. It certainly wasn't a bear walking on 2 legs. It certainly wasn't a disappear behind a tree. So only afterwards, it seems like you get scared after the fact. But when you're up there and you're doing it, there is some terror that it's like, I got to go. I got to get out of here, But the real scary part is when after you leave and you start thinking about what you had just witnessed.
Yeah. Wow. Fascinating stuff. Well, brother, like I say, we'll be praying for you when you're going out and dealing with these things in the next couple of weeks. We'd love to hear back. If you get your ghost busting gear and you catch a slimer or something like that, that'd be great. Take it back. We can talk about the Twinkie. So, but oh man, listen, I am super excited about your new book and the stories that you have in it. The facts that you have in it. I love how that you've tied a lot of these stories from the American Indians with the Amorites and the stories of the giants. I think that these things are correct, and I think that we had a large population of these Amorites and giants over here. I think that we actually also had a population of some Hebrews that came over later, and maybe filled up the land a little bit as well. And Fritz, we just did a show on the Newark Holy Stones with the Decalogue and the Keystone, and the Decalogue was found underneath that big stone pyramid that was close to Newark. And it was under the main mound that was 20 foot tall, and then under a wooden coffin. And I just think that that's fascinating. And anything that goes against, go ahead.
That mound was 60 foot tall, 60 foot stone mound. Yeah.
And it's fascinating that anything that goes against the narrative of modern day, they offhandedly discount it and say, "Oh, that didn't happen." But more and more, Fritz, we were finding out that there is a history that was in the United States that's where we live, and we've not been told the truth. It looks like there was a massive civilization that was here in the continental United States. It had a robust economy. They traveled all over the place. When we were at Newark, they told us about this fire or rainbow flint, and how that Newark is the only place in the world where this stuff, you can find it, be able to mine it, but then it's found all over the place because people travel to these earthworks, Newark earthworks, as like a main hub.
And took it back as a souvenir.
So
yeah, that was mine there in Newark. I was just there, and I was in the hotel, and the lady, if you ever stay in Newark, always stay at the Cherry Valley Inn. That's just beautiful. But she was asking, "Have you been to the Newark Flint?" And I said, "No." I said, "I'm so busy with going to mounds, but that's definitely on my list. I don't know if there's anything paranormal going on there or not, but I would like to see it." Yeah, it was the most desired, and then the second most was Harrison County, Indiana, hornstone or the gray flint that you see a lot. That's real desirable as well. But between that and the Newark flint, those were probably the two most popular in ancient times.
Wow. I'm just shocked that when you visit these places, Fritz, are you still seeing that people, the officials stonewall everything and just say, "Oh, that didn't happen"? Or are you seeing any of these people starting to kind of come over and say some of these things may be true?
Well, that's kind of interesting because the theory that the Newark earthworks, that if you draw a line between the octagon and the hinge and then straight down and then connect them, you have a Pythagorean triangle.
Right.
That's how they were laid out. Oh, and I got attacked for promoting that these earthworks were laid out using the Pythagorean 3-4-5 triangle. But now the new word by academia is that there was the Michelangelo Native American. There was one guy that built all of these geometric earthworks.
Oh,
now,
my
keep
goodness.
it in mind, they knew the Pythagorean triangle. They knew advanced trigonometry to build the earthworks, pi, square root, and they knew all that. And now they're saying that, it was one Native American, and that one guy built all these, which is ridiculous because they were built over a 200-300 year period. And, if he knew all that, then what happened to all that knowledge when we know that the Amorites already had it?
Yeah.
Before they came here, and they were large. And there's another interesting thing. about some of these skeletons. You know, there was a cavern at Mound State Park. There were like 6 or 7 Indians in it, in this tomb. When they opened it up, it still smelled of death, of rotting bodies. And the thing they described the skulls as having a occipital bun in the back, and that occurs numerous times describing giant skulls. Now, generally, an occipital bun is associated with Neanderthal. However, Northern Europeans had it up until about 2000 BC, and they are the only known modern group of Homo sapiens that had an occipital bun. And you know, from the book, I have a chapter in there where I don't get into race. I say that the giants are actually a different species of man.
Yeah, and I like that, because that falls in line with, you know, when you had this hybrid race mixing of angel and human. It creates a different species. And that's why God was so upset, is because it was not made after their own kind. We bring out, Fritz, that you know, where did these angels get these ideas? And if you look at and you look at what a cherub looks like, it's a hybrid creature, but it was something that God created. It had 4 faces, it had 6 wings, or 4 wings. The seraphim had 6 wings. So God does have creations like this. And so when these angels had fallen and they're wanting to create, well, they're just kind of trying to copy what God had already done. You know, not an original thought, but again, they went outside the bounds of what was allowed, and God's like, yeah, you can't be doing that. And
there's another story in the Apocrypha that the giants were born from Lilith, who had snuck in and mated with Adam and begat a race of giants. That's another story. Of course, you know, there's a lot of books in the Bible that, you know, they've taken out. If you buy a Bible from about 100 years ago, it'll have the Book of Jubilee in it. A modern Bible does not. So in the last 100 years, they dropped that. And the Book of Jubilee went pretty well in depth on giants. And I think they removed that because they didn't like the narrative of it. And so you have to realize when you're reading a Bible, you're really reading an edited version. But, you know, what's interesting about Lilith is, you know, they called her the screeching owl, that she was described as that. And Lilith was known, like fairies, Lilith was known to steal babies. And the word lullaby is actually in reference to Lilith stealing babies. You would sing a lullaby to your child as protection against Lilith. So that's really the root of the lullaby. It's a reference to Lilith.
Interesting. I haven't heard that. That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, fascinating. Gosh, Fritz, this has been good tonight, man. I'm encouraged. Every time we talk, I learn more stuff, and I learn interesting things. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to write that down and go research that out. I want to check things out. And we do, Fritz. We actually went to Newark because of you, because of our last interview. We went there and looked at it, and we're just amazed and at how massive the site was. And then we took the trip to the other museum about 45 miles away to go look at the Newark Holy Stones, and kind of did a deep dive. Go ahead.
Oh, you went to Coshocton then? Yes.
Yep. And ate at a little restaurant there too that had a delicious steak, I want to say. So, but yeah, we went there, and Fritz, it's so when you go to that Coshocton museum, it's on the 2nd floor. It's surrounded by all kinds of other things, and it's just this one little display. And if you didn't know it was there, you just probably walk right by it. In fact, we were looking for it. We knew it was there, and we were almost standing right next to it and didn't see it. And so it's interesting that they don't promote this enough. Of course, a lot of their stuff is coming and saying it's hoax and fake because it doesn't line up with the timeline. But wow, we've done some more study into it, and there's actually some new reports out from Ohio State University that are saying that that the Decalogue stone is in fact real, and it was used as a tefillin, where they would actually hold it in their hand and wrap it around
with a strap.
With a strap, and that's what the little hole in the bottom was for. So interesting stuff that they're still studying these things.
That has Hebrew characters on it as well, doesn't it?
It does.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's got the
Ten Commandments on it.
It's got a picture. It's got an effigy of Moshe. It says Moshe right above his head, and it has all of the 10 Commandments in Paleo Hebrew. A squared off form of Paleo Hebrew, not block form, but a squared off form. Yeah.
Well, I think the thing about that is that when they discovered that, I don't know that they even knew about Paleo Hebrew then. So that's kind of where the academia gets tripped up. Of course, they think everything is a fake, but it would make sense that if the Amorites came over here, that the Hebrews, they might have come over as well. They were allied. Those people were allied. They weren't at war, or there's nothing like that was going on with them. So it's possible. I've always, there's a Hebrew script in the Batch Creek Stone, and that's in Tennessee. That was discovered by the Smithsonian, and they had photographed it upside down, and then eventually somebody came around and said, that's Hebrew on that.
Turned it around. Oh, Hebrew, yeah.
Yeah, and that's discovered by the Smithsonian. So I know they're saying that the Newark Holy Stones, that was a plant, but the one in Tennessee, that was found in situ in the burial mound itself, as I believe the Coshocton stone was as well.
Yeah, we believe that the Decalogue was buried under some Hebrew holy man, because it was buried in a wooden box, which was unusual, under that mound that was under the stone pyramid. But the keystone was actually found up on the golf course, in that golf course area in the octagon, in a pit. And so we're wondering, maybe that was something that was captured and was a spoil of a capture, and then someone just threw it. I just looked at it as far as maybe an Amorite or something looked at it, threw it in a pit because like, oh, we don't need this. I mean, so it could have been all kinds of things that went on. We don't know. That they didn't have a video of it when they tossed it in or something like that. So could have been all kinds of stuff. We think that the Amorites probably came over during the days of Joshua, and then probably we believe that the Hebrews may have come over when they were being dispersed the last time when Assyria was taking over the 10 kingdoms up north, and so we kind of think that's when maybe some of the Hebrews may have come over. So there's a good couple hundred years in between those events. So yeah, fascinating stuff.
The Amorites were probably here. Either the Amorites were in Babylon around 2000 BC, but they were around that area much longer. But the Isle Royal, where all the copper was taken out, there was 50,000 tons of copper that they cannot account for. It's just not there. Wow. I mean, you don't find copper in burial mounds. I mean, you might find a bracelet, but I mean, nothing. I mean, all the copper that's been removed from all the burial mounds in Ohio probably isn't more than about 5-10 pounds, probably. We're talking 50,000 tons. And one man estimated that all of the pits of copper, they were bringing this out. And keeping in mind, they were bringing out lobes of copper that was as big as 5 tons. Well, Native Americans would pick it up off the ground and maybe hammer it into a bracelet or a medallion or something like that. So they certainly weren't the ones up there mining that copper. The Chippewas say that at one time there was a white race that was doing it. That's their story.
Interesting.
So they believe that it would have taken 10,000 men 1,000 years to dig up all that copper. And where was it going? Well, this was the Bronze Age.
Right.
So you need copper and you need tin. And one of the larger tin mines is actually just southwest of Stonehenge.
Wow.
So the copper, all this was coming into the Mediterranean from Isle Royale. That's where it all went, to arm the Hebrew armies, Hittite armies, Egyptian armies, and that's who was using all of it. Because it wasn't used in North America. There's nothing even remotely close to that amount of copper here.
I did want to ask a question. My family, my heritage, my last name is Brannon, and we come from the O'Bannons, and there's been some traces back to both Ireland and Scotland, mainly Ireland. And you had something in your book, and I'm probably going to kill this name, the Tuath Dedan, that were in Ireland. Can you tell our audience a little bit about that?
Well, the Tuatha De Dananns were a mythical people. They end up being a mythical people, but they were believed to have come to Ireland on May 1, again, May 1.
May 1.
And they came in a mist. And they were there, and they're definitely associated with burial mounds and some of the ancient remains in Ireland. And then they confronted a people called the Fomorians. Now, whenever you see that Moor word, and etymologically, that's the Amorites. More.
Oh,
so we have
okay.
We have over in France, we have Karnak, the long lines of those stones, and that's in a region called Amorica. So whenever you see that MOR word, you're going to think Amorites, kind of like America. Or you could believe that a guy named it after his first name.
No, I don't believe it at all.
No. No.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that reminds me. My dad used to say things had a Moorish taste, and I'd look at him kind of funny, and he said, "Well, I want some more." There we go. But yeah, it's kind of a sorry dad joke right there. But so yeah, I do know that with that Moor thing, that's very interesting. I haven't considered that.
Well, there's a henge in Morocco. There's really? Megalithic remains there in North Africa, and then you have in England Westmoreland, and there's a lot of Moor words there in the south of England where a lot of the burial mounds are found. So sometimes you can sometimes etymology is good as finding an artifact of just finding words.
Fritz, every time you come on, you give me new things to look up and study. I'm just loving this. This is so good. This is so good. Do you have anything that you may want to end with tonight? Any kind of something that you want to end with? Well,
we'll try to sell some books while we're on here. And so you like America, the Dark Side. I think your listeners will as well. It's certainly going to be a different aspect. And I want to say that, one of the great discoveries, archaeological discoveries, is in there. And that is that the large henge at Newark is aligned to the May 1st sunrise. Have a photo in there. And then the solar opposite of May 1st is October 31st. So May 1st is life, and October 31st is death. And you can go to that earthwork and stand in the gateway October 31st, and the sun will set on the gateway. And you can go to the middle of the circle where you went to the effigy mound in the middle of the henge. And if you stand there, the sun will rise on that gateway. You have to wait for it to clear the museum that they built right in the gateway.
Right in the path.
Which shows you just how ignorant
Yeah.
These people, Ohio History Connection. Here you have a solar temple and you build a museum in the gateway. Can you imagine if they built a building on Stonehenge where all those people come for the summer solstice sunrise, but you can't see it because some knucklehead at the museum put a building there? So, if you want any information, you're not going to get it from a university or, some guy who's bottomed out in his career and is a docent at a museum. So, you're just going to have to go to people like me and get the alternative answer. And that answer is probably the true answer.
Fritz, I want to say, when you were here last time and you were talking to us about the stuff at Newark, you had me armed to the teeth. I was ready to go. So when we went to the museum in Newark, and we had this one, they just have volunteers that are working, and they've been given a script, and they're going through the little script with us and all this.
Yeah, they don't know anything. I mean, they're not responsible for anything. So don't give them. If you're there, don't give those ladies a hard time or anything. It's it's the goofballs at the Ohio History Connection. That's behind all of it. But yeah, those old ladies, they don't know anything.
Well, the guy that was talking to us, Fritz, we let him do his spiel, and I had made mention to him. I said, "Man, that is amazing," and we started talking about the math with it, and we said that is totally amazing. This culture that didn't even have a written language at the time was able to do advanced trigonometry. And the guy just kind of stopped and looked at me. His eyes kind of got big. He's like, "Oh, I've never considered that." So again, Fritz, I'm so grateful for you coming on and looking at this stuff. And listen, it is so good. Guys, listen, go to Amazon.com. You can pick up Fritz's book there, Ancient America, The Dark Side. And listen, we bought it back on the 23rd of November and tore through this stuff. It is so good. In fact, Fritz, we're probably, when we get done tonight, I just realized we have not given you a review. I'm an author and I appreciate reviews. So, Fritz, we're going to go when the program's over tonight, we're going to give you a good review on the book and then hope that you are able to get a lot of these sold and get this information out there. Guys, there's pictures in here that you're not going to see anywhere else. There's proofs that are in here that you're not going to see anywhere else. And you need to get them because, listen, they're trying to erase this from our history. And so thank you, Fritz, for taking the time and energy and the financing, the funds, the traveling in a car without oil. I mean, all kinds of stuff, brother. And facing down all these giants and these demons and things and going on. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for what you're continuing to do. And this has been great.
Yes, and a demon infestation in your car is probably not covered in your insurance, so keep that in mind.
Amen. They would wrongly say that was an act of God, but that's not happening. That's true. Okay, well, Fritz, thank you, brother, for coming on. We'll have you come back on at another time, but you're always welcome here if you have something on your heart and you want to bring, or we would love to have you at any time. We hope that everybody goes on. Again, guys, go hit up Amazon. It's $15. Go to Amazon, buy his book tonight, Ancient America, The Dark Side. You won't regret reading it, guys. There's a lot of great information in this book. Highly, highly recommend it. It's a great read, and would love for you guys to get that, and then and give Fritz a review on it as well. We'd love to get those things out. Fritz, thank you so much for coming on tonight, brother. We love you. It's so good to see you. And thank you for being, we're just little small fish. So we appreciate you coming on our program, and we just love you so much.
Yeah, it's good talking with you as well. And, we're all little fish. So I guess in about 4 months, I'll be done with this. And, everybody that's thinking about going to Newark, I mean, consider really October 31st, sun willing. You don't have to be there that day for an alignment. The sun moves pretty slow. So you really have about 5 or 6 days and you're going to see an alignment. You know, if you go to the Serpent Mound, you don't necessarily have to be there June 21st. If you're there like the 19th, probably through about the 23rd or so, you'd be fine. You'll see it. And you don't have to deal with all the witches that are there.
That'd be nice. Yeah. Lynn Hobbs here said, I have to get the new book. I have 4 of his books now. Each one is awesome, and I highly recommend them. So, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, that's guys. Listen, Fritz, how many books have you wrote? Is it like 6 million? How many books have you wrote now? For real? How many books have you gotten out there now?
This was number 11.
Wow. My goodness.
I have one more that's not ancient America related, but I'm going to do one more, but then that's it. I'm going to stop at an even 12, an even dozen.
Amen, brother. Amen. Well, again, Fritz, we tip our hat to you. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. Thank you for giving us almost 2 hours of your evening. We really appreciate the work that you're doing. We're going to continue to pray and lift you up, going out there in the sticks, and we'll ask God to watch over you and protect you and guide you and keep peace over you. So we love you. All right, brother. All right. Well, we'll see you later, sir. We're going to go ahead and close out the program. So we'll pop you off, and we appreciate you coming on.
Okay. Good night to you, and good night to everyone. Have a Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Oh, that was so good, Miranda. I just love. You know, we really appreciate Fritz coming on. Just a tremendous amount of work and research he's done. I don't know anyone that has done this much study into the mounds and into all of these instances, Miranda. And so I would encourage you guys to go and look and see what all he's got. Again, go on to Amazon.com. Look up his book, Ancient America. He has 11 books out. This is probably, to me, I think one of the thinnest books that he has.
Yeah.
Most of his books are like a massive encyclopedia. So, would definitely encourage you guys to go on, check those things out, guys. But we appreciate everybody logging in tonight. And, guys, listen, it's just like everybody else. That's right. Jeff wrote a book. That's right. Patricia says Jeff has a book. I love it. She started it. There we go. There we go. Jeez, guys. But yeah, so we, all the guests that we have on, guys, we don't necessarily always agree with everything they have to say, but we're looking for those nuggets. We're looking for the things that we can get behind and stand behind and listen. There is no one that has been out and looked at all these mounds and gone to these places and documented these stories. And I would tell you to dig into these things and look at this, and then measure them off of the Word and measure them out out of what the Spirit of God has. So yeah, it's some good stuff. And so we
definitely be careful if we don't just go to these places and try to take on demons without hearing from Yah that He's called us to do something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah. We had somebody, I think Al was saying something about he was having some trouble with PayPal. Guys, if you go, when we close the program out, there'll be a little a QR code that you can actually pause the video, take a snapshot. It should take you right to our PayPal if you want to help support the ministry. And we would really appreciate that. That'd be great. Thank you for bringing that up, Al. And listen, if you're having trouble with that, just shoot us an email. If you're having some issues with that, let me find the email. Shoot us an email at thewayremnant@gmail.com. We can try to help you, thewayremnant@gmail.com, if you're having a little issue. I know that someone else was having some issue last week. They were wanting to try to set up a reoccurring type thing, and we did switch some things around. I think that you should be able to do that now. But guys, listen, we appreciate you so much. We have so many things lined up to talk about. I see April Lockhart. Where is she? Where we go? April Lockhart is in the chat tonight. We're going to be having April and Vicky come on, I believe, January 13th. Guys, that's my daughter's birthday. That's her birthday present from us this year. We're going to have Vicky and April on. That's your birthday present. There we go. It's going to be good stuff. But they're going to be talking about the correlation with parasites and demons. That's coming up just in about 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, something like that. But guys, get ready for that. It's going to be a good show. But we have so many things that coming up that we're wanting to talk about and go into. But be ready to look for some things. We may just pop on. So because we have a lot of stuff going on, guys. But thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We ask that if you have not subscribed to the Way Remnant, that you would subscribe over here. If you have not subscribed over at Take on the World TV, that you would subscribe over there, and then go in and hit the like button, hit the share button, do some commenting. But it would be good, guys. Listen, share these things out. I can't stress that enough. When people have these experiences and they see these things, they experience these things, and they go to the pastor, and he's like, oh, "You're crazy. You're nuts." None of that. Listen, that's the reason we have so many people leaving the church today and going to the occult. We need to be able to look at these things and have a biblical answer for these things, and that's what we're trying to provide for you guys tonight. Yeah.
And thank you, Lynn. Yes, Lynn said she liked my headband.
Oh,
Lynn got me this headband.
Yeah,
for my birthday.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So good stuff. But yeah, guys, listen, this is so good. Yeah. Hey, Rick Johnson, I agree with you. Listen, I've been looking into some of these parasites, and they do. My gosh.
Yeah, April and Vicky have been doing a series on parasites and demons.
I need to get with April and Vicky and ask when we do the show, can I use their bumper music? Oh, I love their bumper music that they've been doing, guys. If you haven't gone over there, let me see if I can find that real quick. I want to pull up Vicky's channel, guys, because I just love her. So I just want to see Vicky. And here we go. Let's see. There we go. Get this, guys. I want to tell you, go over to this website. There you go. There you go. Pop it in. Oops, I just clicked on it. I didn't mean to click on it. There we go. Go here, guys. Go to youtube.com at Vicky with an I, Joy Anderson. And guys, they have been doing an amazing series on parasites and demons. We're going to have them come on the show and kind of give a good summary. It's going to take I think they're going to be on for 8 hours that night. It's going to be great. I'm just kidding. Maybe 7 hours, but it's going to be great. But go there, guys. Look at that, what they're doing, and give them some love over there. I think they only have 100, 200 subscribers. They need some subscribers over there. Go over to Vicky with an I, Vicky Joy Anderson, and hit the subscribe button over there, guys. And you won't be disappointed. So, guys, we appreciate all of you guys. We thank you so much. And April says, "Oh, listen, have things really lined up for y'all?" Absolutely, yeah, good stuff. Yeah, guys, we appreciate you. Hit the like button, hit the thumbs up button, share this out, hit the subscribe button. Share this out to your friends. Share this out to your enemies. Share it out to everybody. We want to try to get the word out there. This is some good stuff. So we love all you guys. Thank you so much for being here tonight, and we will see you on the next time. Shalom, shalom.